morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 523 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Thursday, November 28th, 2024, and well, it's again another wet and sort of cold, drizzly. Not as cold as yesterday in terms of the rain, but drizzly. So, blah, more
Not
blah.
here. Not here, though.
Not here? Oh,
No.
well, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. We
It's
actually have different weather.
Yeah. Well, there is a 2-hour geographical drive.
Yeah. It is possible, but generally we get similar weather.
Well, yeah, you're right on the lake, though, so you
Yeah.
can be suffering from lake effect snow squalls sometimes, but usually the snow squalls go to Buffalo for some reason. Yeah, Toronto's right there, right?
I know.
The snow
It's
hits Buffalo.
Yeah. It's like every now and then it's like maybe it's like you guys should really be honorary Canada.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like when we have something going on, it's like, the only people in the whole United States that really get us is Buffalo and maybe someplace like in northern Michigan and
Well,
Minnesota. It's like, yeah.
and Minnesota, yes, yeah. I mean, in
Oh.
Seattle, which is, 2 hours from Vancouver,
Mhm.
they both have similar weather, but it's drizzly and overcast. So what? Who cares? Yeah.
Except for when you get a bomb cyclone. Eesh.
Well, yeah, when that happens.
Yeah. It's like another atmospheric river. How many of these things are there?
Quite a few, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, boy. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, as you can hear, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Pretty business, business as usual kind of show for you today. Not much dramatic news, but developments. But Mr. Grizzly, before we do anything else, how's your mental health today, sir?
Better by the day. Monday was
Nice.
terrible. Tuesday was not much better. Wednesday was an improvement. Today's even better. So hopefully by tomorrow I'll be great. I mean, I do have to board an aircraft at 7 p.m. to fly to Calgary tonight. So I'm sure, there's always a little anxiety when you're in the airport waiting to get on the plane, but I'm usually chill at the same time. It's like once I sit down on the aircraft, all right, we're good. It's always
Right.
that getting on, getting in, getting your luggage stored. That's the part that creates the anxiety for me. But yeah, I should be good, I think, by this evening. I just wanted to make mention to our American friends. It's U.S. Thanksgiving today, American Thanksgiving today. So happy Thanksgiving to our American viewers. And of course, President-elect Donald Trump has a message that I'll share with you right here on this.
Oh no, do we have to?
Okay, I'm going to read this because this is like, really? Really? Happy Thanksgiving to all, including the radical left lunatics who have worked so hard to destroy our country,
course.
but who have miserably failed and will always fail because their ideas and policies are so hopelessly bad that the great people of our nation just gave a landslide victory to those who want to make America great again. Don't worry, our country will soon be respected, productive, fair, and strong, and you will be, more than ever, proud to be an American.
So basically the same type of message as every holiday.
Yeah. You
Same
suck,
act.
basically, is what he's saying. You suck, and I'm like,
Happy, whatever. Here comes some miserableism.
yeah.
Can't be happy unless he's miserable. You just can't. But it's still the same thing. That's what I mean. I'm getting tired of the him. Not again. One is he gets enough profile, but two, it's just the same damn. If he
Broken
did
record.
something different, fine, maybe. But it's that scene in that movie Evita. This where they're doing the fundraiser. Listen, Magali comes off the stage and sees Ava with Juan Carlos. He's like, "Your act hasn't changed much," she says to him, and he goes, "Neither has yours." And he walks away. I mean, it's just God. See, at first he was a human train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
And you were just watching him go, and you're thinking, like, this guy can't possibly win. I mean, look at him. Like, it's just, and it was like entertaining but scary. Right. And then it's like, wait a minute, he actually could win. And then it was like just,
oh shit, he did win.
Like the car crash, right? When you're driving and everybody slows down, right? You can't like, is this really going to happen? And then it happened. And then it was like just 4 years of chaos and just like everybody dancing to the tune he was calling by like running to the next shiny thing rather than covering the constant underneath. Then we get a freaking insurrection. Then we get 4 years of just legal whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Basically him proving that, yeah, actually a man can be above the law if you're rich enough and you can, gain enough sympathy with enough members of the public in order to actually fund your crusade. And now we got him back again. And it's the same old tricks, maybe with better support, with a better supporting cast for him. But it's the same thing. And we'll get it at Christmas. Merry Christmas, except for this, and Happy New Year, except for this, and
except for the radical left. Except there's such a small group of radical lefts in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Tiny
group. Yeah, but it's just joyless.
Well, and here's the thing: he goes on about how he's gonna make America great again by enacting policies, and it's like we'll be respected again. Actually, the second you are sworn in, all respect for your nation is gone globally. The only people who will respect you are dictators and despots like Orban and Erdogan and Z and Putin.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh,
You'll
Marine Le Pen, I like her.
You'll be feared.
Feared, yeah.
And not feared necessarily because you're scary, like roar, but just because nobody knows what it is that you're going to do to remove the ground under their feet, and you think you are entitled to do anything regardless of what any law says, like this, and you just do it, and then people go, "You can't do that; it's against law; it's unconstitutional." You just turn around, "Oh yeah, fuck you, make me." And you just I mean, that's why people fear, right? It's. So and everybody's like playing like the game, like just like trying to protect what it is that they have, or and it's like anyway. Listen, like I said before, life is going to be rodeo. You're gonna wake up in the morning, okay, what's this father mucker gonna do today? And then you just try to hold on for 8 seconds and get to the next day. And then hopefully you try to get to the next day for the first 2 years, and hopefully midterms come around and some people get to their senses. A couple of things flip. to make it a little harder, and then hopefully, he actually does go away somehow after the next 2 years. But hopefully, there's some way to lame duck him until the midterms, right, and minimize him. But that's about the best you can hope for.
So I heard something just yesterday that they say, you know how one moment in time can change a million things, a pebble in a pond, right? It ripples. So when Donald Trump was hosting The Apprentice, he discovered that Gwen Stefani was paid more than him on The Voice. He didn't like this. So he decided to raise his profile, that he would run for president. That would raise his profile. He had never intended to become president. Then he went to his first rally after his announcement and discovered that, oh, wait a minute, there's something here. So Gwen Stefani's fault for being paid more than him. And here's the thing, you can't blame her for earning money. But his ego is so fragile, I can't let a woman earn more than me, that he had to raise his profile to run for president to get more money for The Apprentice. Because remember, the first time he ran, that's what he did. Right. He raised his profile. The second time he ran, he did it to raise his profile again. Then he got elected, because this is the third time he ran for president. Because he ran before and didn't get elected, remember?
Okay. Huh. So Gwen Stefani was getting paid more on The Voice than he was on The Apprentice, and he couldn't handle it.
Yeah. That's the thing I heard yesterday, and I
thought it's Michael Moore who said it.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. That could very much, there'd be credence to that, because his ego is so fragile.
Well, yeah. Wow. Well, hey, it was a couple of jokes at the press. Too, from Obama that set him off. See, and this is what I said yesterday when I'm saying, like, I'm not saying, be afraid of him, I guess, but if you're playing a strategic game, you realize that there are about 190 nations in the world. So there's a lot of things that a lot of people do that to get his attention, that if you just to try to quietly go about and live your life. It's like, when he pops up and starts yelling and says your name, it's like, what? You're like this. Okay, this is the thing, like this. And then you try to maneuver and manage and whatnot, and, push back where you need to. Of course, don't just surrender like this, and then try to go quiet again and hope somebody else gets his attention for a while. Like this. That's why I'm so pissed off at all these premiers that seem to be jumping up and down. It's like being stabbed in the heart by a family member. Really? It's like, so there's some minion running up to Donald Trump and says, yeah, that guy in Ontario, he said you just stabbed them in the heart. Now Donald Trump's probably going, hey, I'm glad he's feeling that way, like this, in private, like this. But he's in that. But it's like, hey, now I got something to be offended about.
Yeah.
So that I can hit him even harder to get them to bed. It's like, shut the fuck up. Speak only when necessary, and use as few words as possible to make the point, so that it is as clear as possible, can't be interpreted 55 different ways, and that you don't volunteer anything that he can grab onto to go crazy with. That's the strategy. With someone who's a frickin' motor mouth, the fewest words possible. Just shut up. What is wrong with you people?
Fragile ego on that man. He turfed his first wife when he realized she was better at running a casino than him. Well, that's true. And he also bankrupted a casino.
7.
How do you do that? They're literally licenses to print money. How do you bankrupt a casino? And he bankrupted 7?
I think so.
7 casinos? He shouldn't be allowed to be in business. That man should be committed to a psychiatric institution. He bankrupted multiple casinos. Come on.
Or maybe the same one several times. Trump Entertainment Resorts and his predecessors have filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy 4 times. In 1991, following construction of the Trump Taj Mahal, in 2004, 2009, and 2014.
Just can't. That's
Wow.
hilarious. That is
Wow.
hilarious.
Yeah, please for and that there might and that's that one. Then there might be a few others after,
Oh, yeah. No,
because
he's
here,
had multiple bankruptcies, but he
according,
said, "I've never declared bankruptcy." No, you're right. His companies have. He personally has never declared bankruptcy.
mhm, wow, because here's Yahoo Finance. By the early 1990s, the financial situation of the Trump's casino empire had become critical. Multiple bankruptcy filings ensued. The Trump Taj Mahal in '91, followed by Trump Plaza and Trump Castle in '92, and later Trump Hotels and Casino Resorts in 2004. So, yeah. So yeah. All right. Enough about this guy.
Oh, I
We
got
got
just one more
our
thing. One more thing.
okay.
Real simple. Real simple. No. Trump claims Mexican president has agreed to close the border. Mexican president, we're not doing that.
Yes. Yes. I was that was going to go in there. But yes, it's he did this thing that he does where he has a call with
Mm,
someone, and then each side, of course, releases their version of how the call went.
right.
It's always good to read both sides because some sides are more open.
Yes.
That's how sometimes you find out more about what's going on in your country by reading the statements of other countries than your own. So, yeah, apparently he decided to put out this thing that they had this great call, and the one call, and she agreed that she was going to work on it, and it's like puts one out. It's like, no, that did not happen.
Hmm.
So, the president of Mexico, this is twice now, has made it very clear that she will not be having it.
No, not at all. Scheinbaum is. She's. I like her. She's
And
not putting up with it.
yeah, and like I don't know how much there is to like on the leftist part of her because she's doing some interesting thing with
Hmm.
judges
Yeah.
right down in Mexico. So like, but in terms of uh, she has el fuego
Fire.
fire. Yes, it's like she has that. Oh, yeah, she has a little bit of the Yves François Blanchet. Oh, you're going to come onto my land and tell me how things are going to. Oh, no. You're cute. So, um, yeah, I have a feeling. See, if she is going to be the person that keeps on bopping him on the nose with the rolled up newspaper, that's not necessarily bad for us.
Mm.
Just like I said, there are a lot of chess pieces on the board. And this is why, in a situation like this, when there are so many players, the best first initial move is to just sit back and observe. Then find your path instead of jumping out and being the first. This is the thing. Doug Ford so wants to frickin' be prime minister, it appears,
Yes.
that he saw this opportunity as like, I'm going to show that I can lead this country. Except in the process, now you've insulted Mexico twice, and you've said something that will stoke the ire of Donald Trump. All in the space of about 5 days. Way to go, Point Dexter. It's like, can somebody please take Doug Ford and stuff him in the same freezer that the Conservative Party of Canada stuffs him at every federal election for the next while? Just to keep him quiet. Oh my God. So it seems that there was that meeting with the premiers. It was yesterday. It was indeed by phone. And it seems that they had, as I would expect would be the case, you know, some very frank
Hmm.
chat with lots of candor about what this means. Um, but there's, and we'll go into that, but there's always got to be one right? There's always got to be one.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So the one this time was Danielle Smith. So they all go into there, right? And I will read you the article. But once again, when I was talking about Pierre Poilievre and he stood up in the House and says, what we need is a plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, really, Captain Obvious? We need a plan. Like nobody thought of that.
Wow, this guy, give this guy a hero biscuit.
Such bold frickin' leadership.
Gold star for you, sir.
Well, you had Doug Ford, and it's something like, oh God, I wish I could remember what it is that he said off the top of my head. But it was so freaking, how would I put it? It, again, on its own, standing alone, right? It sounds very, very, I'm rallying the troops and all that kind of stuff and rah, rah. But like, it's not.
No, I know.
Like, you sit down and you think about the words and you're like, well, duh. So I don't know where, there we go. He says, basically Donald Trump, right? You talk about Donald Trump. He says, we need to tighten up the border. We need to tighten up the border. Okay. Whoa. He says we need to jump, so we jump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's a puppet.
We need to tighten up the border on both sides. See what you did there, Doug. And the federal government needs to have a plan. We don't need to have a plan a month from now. We need a plan now. Walk around frantically while carrying a clipboard. Makes you look busy. We need a plan. We don't need a plan a month from now. We need a plan now. Donald Trump told us to jump. We need to jump.
What's your plan then, Pierre?
That's Doug Ford.
No, I know, but Pierre.
Poilievre. But Pierre, all of them. What's your plan? It seems that your plan is to run around with your hair on fire saying, we need a plan. No.
I didn't know that. I am surprised to learn this information. This is my shocked face.
This is
sarcasm, folks.
This is the leadership we've all been waiting for.
Oh my God.
You got that little harp sound?
I do. Just give me a second till I find it here. I do have it. I do.
Doug Ford, we need a plan. How would we ever have known? Oh my God, these people.
Followed by. Like.
I'm feeling pain right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, like on the side of my eye. It's just the throbbing pain.
We need a plan. Really, Doug?
Okay, so we need a plan. And the problem is that, okay, we definitely need to prepare stuff, but we still don't know what the F he's going to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Trump. Again, like I said yesterday, you got to sit down. You got to do the hard work of trying to get into his head and thinking of all the twisted, weird, possible things he could possibly conceive of, gaming them out, trying to have an initial response ready like this, and then hoping one of those scenarios comes up so that you can try it and then see if your response survives first contact. That's about the best you can do with this guy because he changes on a dime. Stop going around saying that we need to establish some big elaborate plan right now. You're going to spend 3 weeks frantically doing something that's maybe going to blow up in 7 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have to have a nimble, reactive response team that doesn't freaking panic. And that doesn't start every negotiation with quick, cut off an arm and give it to him, and hopefully he won't ask for the whole body. It's like, stop it.
This is perfect from Linda. This is the type of negotiating skill that got us FIPA.
Right?
Yeah.
31 years. And hey, if ever you have a problem with anything that we do, well, you have no recourse. How's that sound for a deal?
Yeah, Canada's screwed. Basically, China can have their way with us.
Oh my God.
This is from Stefano. I hope I pronounce his surname correctly. Barberis, Barberis. It could be Barberi. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He says the story of Canada. Liberals offer, provide something. NDP. It's not enough. Offer more. Who cares about the deficit? Economics. Cons. How dare you offer anything? Who cares about people? The end. The response to that kind of reminds me of the government response during COVID when people were dying and homes and businesses were struggling to stay afloat. Liberal, we're here to help. NDP, we're here to help, but it's my idea. Conservatives, we're here to give you a tax break.
And speaking of that, the GST cut and the $250 rebate.
Yes.
Right?
Which individual?
Yes. So we'll get to that. But when I said there was always one, Danielle Smith this time around. So Doug Ford is at least minimizing the damage. I imagine him as like a drunk, the bull in the china shop? Now imagine the bull drunk.
Yeah, that's
one end of the china shop.
Apparently he doesn't drink
the china shop. Right? So that's my image of Doug Ford on the international scene. Right? I'm going to say this because it's going to make me look prime ministerial. Oh boy, did I just cause an international incident? It's like a combination of like a drunk bull in a china shop in Urkel. Did I do that, folks? So
I knew that.
So, but at least he's like sticking to the Captain Obvious bland platitude things for now. Danielle Smith, however, seeing that, saw her opportunity, and she decided that she was going to express some doubt as to whether or not the Prime Minister might be the right person to be leading Team Canada, because that's exactly what this moment calls for, you selfish beep, 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 beep. She's got me swearing in French in my head. So, according to JP Tasker, who I saw host an episode of Power and Politics last week, I think it was, when David Cochrane was gone, and holy crap, was it ever slanted. I mean, JP Tasker is no David Cochrane. I will tell you that. Whoa. Everything was really slanted to how like the questions informed, and like he had an interview with Karina Gould where she was saying something, and then he was like taking what she said and making it sound like completely different, or just like brushing it off with the pass of her hand and says, so this is the reality is, and like she had to say certain things like 3 times. It's like, dude, listen to the person you're interviewing, and if they're giving you a bit of information, maybe incorporate that bit of information into your next question. It was like, ugh. So yeah, that was scary. But according to this article here, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the premiers met Wednesday to discuss strategy as President-elect Donald Trump threatens to upend the bilateral relationship with punitive tariffs on everything Canada sends to the U.S. Trudeau has sought to reassure the country that Canada is equipped to handle Trump in his second term because he and his team have past experience with the sometimes mercurial incoming president. The Prime Minister spoke to the premiers Wednesday around 5 p.m. Eastern Time about presenting a united front against the U.S. threats. The premiers were also expected to push Trudeau to change direction by acquiescing more to Trump's demands to maintain cross-border trade. They're literally asking him to pre-roll over. No, you wait for the opening offer on paper. Then you start negotiating. Stop it. Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland and Public Safety Minister Dominique Leblanc said at a news conference after the meeting that the conversation with premiers was, quote, very positive, and that all agreed they needed to work, quote, in a united and coordinated way, after which Danielle Smith came out and said, I'm not sure. But they agreed. Freeland noted the bulk of the discussion was spent on the border and the Canada-US trade relationship, which she emphasized is, quote, mutually beneficial. Quote, we agreed that illegal drugs, especially opioids, are a scourge for both of our countries, and that we need to continue to work hard to ensure our border is safe and secure and really crack down on illegal drugs, she said. LeBlanc said premiers mentioned the importance of reassuring Canadians and U.S. partners that the border is secure. Quote, Canadians have every interest in ensuring the integrity and security of the border, he said. That the Americans share that concern is also very normal and resulted in decades of daily collaboration. He mentioned that in the coming weeks, Canadians can expect to see the government and law enforcement agencies reassuring Canadians that the border is safe, quote, and showing Americans the history and daily partnership that exists between the RCMP and American agencies. And I do not know why we have to keep on showing this to them every 4 years. I mean, we've had the same border since we've existed. They should know by now. Just saying. Wednesday evening, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith said that everybody was very direct with the Prime Minister. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure you were, Boo Boo Kitty. She noted that while premiers are, quote, largely united, everybody was very direct with the Prime Minister. But on the issues discussed, she said she remains at odds with the federal government on their energy approach, which has nothing to do with this, as we explained yesterday. Quote, the punitive measures that they've taken specifically against our industry makes us look foolish to the Americans, Smith said. We know that the next stage of this is going to talk about energy security, and you can't go into a discussion about energy security and energy affordability when you've got production caps and massive taxes on top of Canadian energy. Yes, you can. I am absolutely on Team Canada, but I want Team Canada to also be on Team Alberta. We built you a frickin' pipeline, girl. Again.
No kidding. Yeah,
you are producing more oil than ever.
Yeah.
Because if Justin Trudeau is trying to kill the industry, he sure has a funny way of showing it.
He is the first prime minister to make that purchase, by the way, and he has poured more money into Alberta than any prime minister in Canadian history, including Stephen Harper.
Yes,
is from Alberta. Well, not born in Alberta, but you know. Harper was born in Toronto, wasn't he?
Yes, yes. It is an emissions cap.
Yeah.
Not a production cap. So the more you reduce your emissions, the more you can produce. So, you know, we can't do that. Well, not with that crap attitude. You can't. How about before saying that you can't do it, maybe try. Try. If you fail, okay, but try. Humor us. Entertain us. Try. Negative Nancy. Jeez, that can't be done. We can't do that. That's impossible. Whiny little brat. Sorry, but she is. It's like all the kids. We need that. We need this. You didn't do that. Donald Trump wants to come after our oil. Help us. Okay, we'll hold the meeting. You didn't lead that meeting well enough. Just shut up.
Please. Please.
It's like none of this is helpful. You got your leadership review, girl. It's 91.5%. Right on that. Like, stop trying to make the guy whose job it is to represent us trip on the first hurdle every GD time. Stop. It's like you're not helping. And meanwhile, she's out there once again talking about de-risking and more another pipeline project. And it's like, do you not remember that the last time you de-risked, quote unquote, a pipeline project, and de-risking is de-risking like for the industry, not for you, the citizen? Because the last time Alberta tried to de-risk a pipeline, they put $1.3 billion on the table, and like 30 seconds after, vanished. You got literally nothing for it.
Yeah.
They just said, thank you. We're still not building that damn pipeline. Sorry. It's like, come on, man. You can't. Even if it were true that we needed somebody else leading this, that message in her mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's not the brightest bulb.
Please.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Jeez. Prior to the meeting, Smith signaled that she was not sure Trudeau was the person best placed to deal with Trump, given past tensions between the two. Oh, so it wasn't after the meeting. It was not the meeting was after. It was just going in. Let's set the tone. So here's the punch bowl that we're all going to be drinking from before the meeting. And here, let me just like drop a couple of drops of cyanide in there. Hi, Prime Minister. Welcome to our meeting. Would you like a glass of punch? She is poison.
Well, arsenic.
She comes in and she just sprinkles a little bit of that negative dust everywhere she goes. It's right there. Sets the tone, frames things. Just always just that little mosquito in the ear, right? Just annoyingly doing that little thing just to show that, I'm not going to be a team player. Always trying to score that point, like this, that thing that I talked about, tying your identity to someone else. There is no Danielle Smith without Justin Trudeau. She has so tied her identity to being the anti-Justin Trudeau that there's just no her without him. PR-wise, that's a really stupid thing to do, because if the other person goes away, you kind of lose half your identity.
Mm-hmm.
It works for the time it works, and then it doesn't. So it's not a long-term play.
We're surrounded by idiots.
Yeah. One of Trump's former advisors, John Bolton, his national security advisor in the first term, has said the president-elect doesn't like Trudeau and sent out his emissaries to attack the prime minister on the U.S. television in the first term. The conservatives want you to believe that that's a bad thing.
Mm.
Just like Donald Trump wants Americans to think it's a good thing that he would have this wonderful relationship with Putin because Putin respects him, because, yes, we should be respected by dictators who suppress their own people. Okay. This one is like, Donald Trump doesn't like Justin Trudeau. That's a terrible, really? I think that's a selling point. I think it's like when a dog, when a new person comes to you, bring home a new boyfriend, and the dog doesn't like him right away.
Yeah.
But I think the same thing. Whoever Donald Trump gut reflexively does not like, probably somebody I want on my team. Just saying. Oh, by the way, it seems that there will be no more love letters between Donald Trump and Kim this time around.
Yeah, apparently they've had a breakup.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, because Kim's got some soldiers from North Korea out in Russia helping with Ukraine. So Kim has found himself a stronger. Kim has found himself a real man who can provide. Sir Donald Trump is. I can see the sad music. Donald Trump looking through the window of the hands. But Kim, we used to have a thing.
He wrote me beautiful letters. Was so beautiful.
We were building something.
Remember that photo of him standing there with that ginormous envelope? That
maybe a throuple? You guys into a throuple? No? Okay. It's like, so yeah, jilted Donnie. There will be no love letters. So yeah, I think this is not a bad thing. After he lost the presidency, Trump called Trudeau, quote, a far-left lunatic who destroyed Canada. Again, selling point. With his COVID-era policies, Trump also torpedoed. See, now here, this is JP Tasker.
Mm-hmm.
Right, what I said? This paragraph doesn't really add anything, really. There's some context, yes, but after he lost the presidency, who cares? Trump called Trudeau a far-left lunatic who destroyed Canada with his COVID-era policies. Trump also torpedoed the Canada hosted G7 by lashing out at the Prime Minister on his way out of Charlevoix. Yeah, he lashed out at the Prime Minister, but that didn't torpedo the G7. It just made the story at the ending of the G7 all about Donald, because Donald didn't get any headlines during the G7 because nothing he did was or contributed was newsworthy. So he didn't get all the attention that he expected to get from the thing. So he left by claiming something so that all the cameras would turn to him and the media did everything. Donald Trump said this. What do you say?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than Donald Trump said this. Is it true? Let's ask the other 6 leaders that were the other 5 leaders that were there. Is that how it went down? Is that how you saw the Prime Minister? Oh, so it was just him then. Oh, okay. And actually bring you the news. Yeah, he said it, but no one else in the room thought that. The full news, right? As a journalist is supposed to want to do. Because of curiosity. There's 7 people in the room. One person says so. Maybe ask the other people in the room. See what they have to say. Be curious enough to wonder. Maybe. Right? So, yeah. Torpedo. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about this guy, the language, like Donald Trump torpedoed it. So if he torpedoed it, would make it look like it was so much more devastating that the Prime Minister's effort was. It's like, wasn't torpedoed. He threw a temper tantrum. He shifted focus. That's what happened. But the G7 wasn't torpedoed. The G7 had already happened before he did this. The communique was already out. So what I'm talking about, slanting. Words matter. Torpedoed sounds dramatic and whatnot, but it's not what happened. If you were there. Quote, I don't think we should underestimate the personal animus between these 2 leaders, and if he's not the right person to have at the negotiation table, we need to make sure that the right person is, Smith said in an interview. So yeah, Danny, darling, it's not reopened until 2026. Everything until then is positioning unless everybody decides to open it early. So you might not even have to worry about him being the person at the table. So all of these words is, again, like you flapping your wings and moving a lot of air, but you're not doing and saying much. And whatever you are doing and saying, the sound, the noise you're making, is not helping anybody. Certainly not Team Canada, regardless of who is going to be at that negotiating table in 2026. Because even if it's not Justin Trudeau, the words that you just said are recorded and they're forever. And there's somebody, if you haven't picked up yet, there's somebody in the United States administration, I guess, looking for the right moment to say, oh, you have a meeting with her? Well, this is what she said about you last time.
Yeah.
Keep your mouth shut, especially since you want Keystone really, really badly.
Danny. Two-faced Danny.
You might want to play the long game here.
Well, Daniel Smith and Doug Ford and Pierre Poilievre are railing on about, Canada is broken, it's damaged, it's this, it's that. According to the U.S. News and World Report, for the top 10 countries for quality of life, Denmark is number 1, Sweden is number 2, Switzerland is number 3, Norway is number 4, and Canada is number 5. Continues on with Finland, Germany, Australia, the Netherlands, and New Zealand. Now, what do those countries have in common? Strong social programs, universal health care, and with the exception of Canada, and I'm not sure about New Zealand and Australia, but with the exception of Canada, universal post-secondary education, state-funded. Canada ranks number 4 in best countries overall. But this is from the U.S. News and World Report. The United States doesn't even make the top 20. But Canada's broken, according to these people. And it's also, we're ranked in the top 5 freest countries, and those freest countries tend to be Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, Finland, Norway, Canada. Again, social democracies with really strong social safety nets. Sure, the taxes are high, but everyone is taken care of.
So you get something for your money.
Every time I hear, we're going to make us the freest country in the world. No, you're going to make us a tax-free country, but we're not going to be free. We'll be slaves to corporations.
So, yeah, we are not broken. We are not broken.
Not even close.
Everybody went through, that expression, you're about to go through a lot of things. You're about to go through some things. We all went through some things. Right here, COVID, right? We went through the first truly global pandemic, like simultaneous at one time because there was HIV and AIDS, but I mean, simultaneous global fast replicating pandemic in about 100 years that where the entire global economy shut down, and we still have not yet fully recovered in terms of supply chains and whatnot. This was big, like massive big. As in, if there are still humans 1,000 years from now, they will be studying this in history class still. Big, right? It's like, we have to put things in perspective here. Because this was a really, really, really heavy lift. It was a global one. And everything that we knew about life completely got turned on its head for a couple of years. It's like, if you've ever had the misfortune of being in a natural disaster where you lose your entire home, like, you're not set up the way you were 2 months later. It takes some time. And even after all the time it takes to settle things, if you, let's say you rebuild in the same place, the time you rebuild the home, all the time that takes, or let's say you relocate somewhere else, the time it takes to settle everything and then find the new place and then settle in, and you don't have all your old stuff, so you have to acquire some new stuff, and that you've got a comfortable pace of life, that everything and the house like you need it and you want it, like you had your previous one that you had been there for a while, everything's cozy and just right. That's not just 1 or 2 years. Now imagine that global for every freaking person on the planet. Right? We pumped the brakes on stuff. Like, we did well.
We did better than most.
It's like, compared to everybody else, we did well. Compare us now to, compare coming out of it to just before it. Of course, all the numbers are lower. That makes, of course, it's when you stop everything, the time to get going, it doesn't all come back. And for us, things came back kind of quick. But yes, you're going, just like we had closing pains, we're going to have reopening and growing pains. We had problems with airports. We had problems with passports. Yes, we figured it out. And for other things, so long as you have people of goodwill and of good faith that are willing to try and admit, for example, okay, we screwed up here, we need to make an adjustment like this, we will figure it out.
Yes.
At some point, you got to trust the process. We didn't spend, the Westminster parliamentary system didn't build itself over all these decades and even centuries. Like, for us to not figure out a way.
This comment here from Cassie is dead bang.
It's a good process.
Times are difficult now, but my dad pointed out we are still better off than my grandpa growing up in the Great Depression. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was virtually no social safety net back then, right? Our social safety net needs to be propped up. There's no question about that. ODSP, as one example, is like, why don't we just scrap ODSP and have a UBI, period? Get rid of EI, get rid of welfare, get rid of all of that. One source for everything, UBI, fixes all the problems. Progressive conservative, late Senator Hugh Segal proposed this and pushed this because it's the right thing to do. And I have talked to a number of lifelong progressive conservatives who firmly believe in a UBI.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
they know it saves us money. Saves lives and it saves us money.
Yep, Senator Kim Pate right now is doing the same thing, trying to lead it. Leah Gazan was trying to lead it in the House of Commons, and Senator Kim Pate. So I mean, but the thing with one of those programs, right? It's the same thing again. PR, right? You turn around and you say, okay, we're going to compost all of that in the UBI, and then somebody comes around and says, yeah, but will they really? Do you really want to use whatever ODSP you are? Well, but that's the people that are of bad faith, and they'll come in, right? Just because it's the unknown. It's the unknown. Like right now, you have what you have because the UBI is this whole new thing. Will it work as it intended? Hey, it's government. It never works as it's intended, right? Every time somebody says from the government says this thing's going to be revenue neutral, there's already somebody that comes around and says there's no such thing as revenue neutral. Do you really believe government's going to do revenue neutral? Well, we just have a government that has just done it, right? Sometimes they do it like this. You take the promise. You place some faith, you see what they do, and if they execute it well, you give them a cookie, and if you don't, then you demand that they make adjustments. And you put on pressure, or you adjust your vote as required. But I mean, you don't turn around and say, well, you promised you would do it, but you might not, so let's not.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to guarantee you get nothing. Because everybody might not do something they've said they've done. So that's what I mean. There's these attitudes where you're the starting position. It's just like, do you really want anything to happen? Because every position you're taking is like, it's like, well, I don't like it. It's bad. And even if we did it, it wouldn't work. And even if it would work, they wouldn't do it the right way. So no. Well, then you don't want a solution, right?
There's always bad faith actors that just don't. They like to stir shit up. They insist that no matter what we do, it won't work. So they like to keep things status quo because it's usually in their interest to do so. And oftentimes it's so that they can have someone beneath them so that they can piss on somebody. They need somebody to punch down on because their egos are fragile. Their mommy didn't love them. They have some sort of trauma. There's a myriad of things that contribute to that type of behavior. I do not comprehend that kind of behavior. Why are you picking on somebody who you deem as lesser than you? You should be picking them up and helping them.
Yep. Now, according to the article, but Trudeau also said Tuesday he had a good conversation with Trump after he issued that social media post announcing his plan to levy tariffs the day he takes office. Apparently, the prime minister was on the phone with Trump within about 90 minutes of that tweet coming up. Sources have described, by the way, that's when you do jump on the phone 90 minutes after, not when there's like a tiny little riot disturbance that you already have police for. This is the type of thing that only the prime minister can do. Notice the difference between the two?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Leader to leader, where there is nobody else, no other body, like this, versus a situation in the street that police have prepared for decades. They've got this. There's difference. Sources have described the phone conversation as productive, with Trudeau stressing there will be economic pain not only for Canada, but for Americans if he goes ahead with the plan. Tariffs levied on Canadian goods could make those products more expensive to American consumers. LeBlanc was also the minister responsible for intergovernmental affairs, says he doesn't agree with claims there's, quote, personal animus between the two leaders. I think that that's true. I don't think there's personal animus. I think Trump actually somewhat respects Trudeau a little bit, because of his longevity and because, they did manage to negotiate a pretty good deal while not getting rolled over as well. We were tough.
Well, he was also the only world leader he met that didn't pull him off his feet when he tried to do that.
Yeah.
Handshake.
So all of that stuff. So, and I really don't believe that Justin Trudeau has any personal animus for Donald Trump. I think Justin Trudeau at worst is probably like, in the meeting, it's like, I roll. Okay, guess I got to do this. But I don't think there's any personal animus. I don't think Justin Trudeau is the type of person that holds that grudge type thing. I don't get that. I don't get that sense of anger, that teething anger. That like Pierre Poilievre, would he have animus with people? Would he hold grudges? Yes, absolutely. Right? But I don't get that vibe from them. Doesn't mean it's not there, but I don't get that vibe. So he's really good at hiding it. But I'm sure he's not doing cartwheels when the phone rings, says it's Donald Trump for you. It's like, oh, Donald, my friend. It's probably not happening, right? So, pass him to me. What now? But animus, come on. If there was animus, there'd be some little passive-aggressive little jabs here and there that would be coming up. And that's not been happening from our prime minister. So, our focus will be to build a constructive, collaborative relationship with the incoming administration in the U.S. It's in Canada's interests that we do, LeBlanc said. Smith said from the Premier's perspective, it's not clear who's leading Canada's efforts to dissuade Trump from punishing the country with tariffs. Well, it should be the government of Canada. So if it's not clear to you, it's only not clear because you are making a choice to not be in clarity, because it's clear to the Americans. Americans didn't pick up the phone to call you to negotiate, did they, Danny? I think the Americans are pretty clear on who it is, so that should be a sign for you. If you can't tell on your own, look to who the Americans are looking at. Little deductive reasoning. Magic. Think for yourself, Danny. Jeez, my God. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland leads cabinet. These people will say anything. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland leads Cabinet's Canada-US Committee, and Trudeau has asked Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne and International Trade Minister Mary Ng with leading the Team Canada outreach efforts to US politicians and businesses. Smith says Trudeau has, quote, probably recognized he's not the best person to sit at the negotiating table with Trump. Or maybe he's the Prime Minister of the nation, and he's got more files to handle than just this one. So he's establishing a dedicated team that will come back and report to him so that he can handle it. Maybe. Or it could be that he just recognized that he's not the right guy and sent somebody else to do it. Out of the two, which is more likely? I don't think I'm the right guy to negotiate with Trump, but I am the right guy to lead Canada into the next election, said no candidate for Prime Minister ever. Not that we have candidates for Prime Minister, but you know what I mean. The Alberta Premier, who said she's worried about the severe economic ramifications for a province if Trump goes ahead with 25% tariff on all Canadian goods, planned, because that would leave a big hole in your budget, wouldn't it, eh? Planned to push Trudeau to take Trump's threats seriously and address what he's most worried about, illegal migration and drugs from Canada headed to the U.S. You know what? You're the leader of a province. You could do stuff too, Danny, when it comes to illegal migration and drugs and shoring up your oil industry to make it a little American proof. You could do some things as premier. You could have been doing things since premier for a while now.
Well, here's a clip of Danielle Smith talking about these things. Unbelievable.
Well, look, let's stop the leaky border first. Let's stop the illegal migration first. Let's stop the fentanyl first. Let's meet our NATO commitment first, and let's see where we get with the Americans. I think that the U.S. has legitimate issues that they have raised with us, and we've got to address those legitimate issues. I don't think that we can say, but, because quite frankly, the American economy is the strongest in the world. They can produce a lot of what they need to consume. We are very reliant on them, and they are in the position of being able to dictate terms. And so I suppose we could punish ourselves with tariffs, but I would say, why don't we take the approach of trying to figure out how to solve the things that are the trade irritants to them? That would be my first step.
Okay. She said that like she is not aware of the data I gave you yesterday. 20 kilograms of fentanyl total seized crossing the Canada-US border. And let us remind ourselves that controlling what comes into the US side of the border is the United States job. The United States is supposed to monitor their side of the border, and we monitor ours. So if there's fentanyl coming across the border, it's not because our border agents didn't do the job well. It's because theirs did. 20 kilograms of fentanyl cross the border.
Now that
Canada-US way. And the
you
other
do
way
need to
around,
consider that 20 kilos of fentanyl will kill a lot of people.
absolutely.
Okay, I don't want that downplayed. That's all. It's
No.
It's not much in the grand scheme of things. Yes, if it's on the streets, a lot of people will die.
Absolutely. But we're talking versus tens of thousands of kilograms of fentanyl coming across the US-Mexico border. And she said that it's a legit... Yes. In the sense that Mr. Grizzly mentioned, it's a legit issue. But if you compare, it is not an issue. Migrants crossing the border. 53,000 or 63,000 in October alone, crossing from the Mexico border into the United States. 20,000 from Canada into the United States over a period of 12 months. These problems are nowhere on the same order of magnitude. And you have Danielle Smith running to the camera like they're speaking of it like this. The United States is so big and strong and they could crush us, whatever. When if they say we have an irritant, we should just come over and go, yes. How do we solve this for you? Yes. Because that doesn't create a precedent if you do that. Say, well, hey, let's just say. Remember, this is the just say it happened and let's do the rest. So just say there's a problem with this at the border. And since every time we say there's something at the border, they go, oh, yes, take it. Well, what else do we need to say that there's a problem with trade with? These are not behaviors and patterns. You can't be sitting there looking at eyes all worried, but the United States can do anything they want to us. So, if he says we need to do it, we just need to do it. No. It's like, we understand that the United States has some concern like this. We have some too. That's why we have this revision process. When the process starts and in the lead up to that, we will show up in good faith and we will accommodate where we are able to. We will demand what it is that we require because this is supposed to be a two-way street. And where we need to push back, we will. That's what a grown-up says. Not the United States is so big and things can happen to us. Please, we have to show them that we're willing to be completely docile and conciliatory. If we want to save the little bit that... Why is it always the most incompetent people who feel that they're the ones who should be leading stuff?
I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh, by the way, got a really nice compliment from our friend David Gray.
Oh,
yeah. The whole thing, my economic breakdown of like why it is that this is a stupid thing that the premiers are doing. Apparently, a very, very respected foul-mouthed economist believes I'm bang on in my assessment.
Well, that's good. It's good stuff. That's good promotion for the channel.
Yeah. So there you go. Like this, but like, again, my background is not economics. So, when an economist says you're on the right track there, you got that. That's like, thank you.
Yeah, big time. Did you know, I'm just learning this now. This was released yesterday at 3:30 p.m. I didn't know this. Ontario to match the GST holiday by removing provincial sales tax on some items. I was not aware of this.
Yep. We'll get to that one.
I'm just learning of this now. And you are familiar with Hamilton MP Chad Collins, who said earlier this week he would vote against the government's cash rebates because they leave out seniors and people with disabilities. Apparently, he was threatened with unspecified consequences if he votes against the government's proposed $250 checks, an affordability measure that continues to face an uncertain path. Unless they start adding more people to it, it's not going to go through.
It's not going to go through.
And it shouldn't, because it's not helping nearly enough people, and it's especially not helping people who need it the most.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, that's going to be the next topic I'm going to tackle on there, because Jagmeet Singh is doing some pretty interesting things on that.
Oh.
So yeah, and then basically there are comments from other premiers like Andrew Fury and stuff like that in this article here, and some data that's kind of important here. So this is a lengthy, more in-depth article here on this one here on CBC. It's called, if you want to go look for it yourselves, kids and cubs. Trudeau meets with the premiers as Trump ramps up his threats against Canada, by John Paul Tasker. It's probably going to be one of the more read articles in the nation today for this. So, we got the border crossings and the fentanyl, and we got the differences between our two countries like this, both of us. Yes, they are things that we should be working on constantly all the time like this. But, for Donald Trump to be framing the issues as being equivalent on both sides of the border, as both of them requiring 25% tariffs instead of the 10 he campaigned on during the election, right? Like, it's the over dramatization and the lack of nuance and the lack of proportion right here. And then for Danielle Smith to be running like this and Doug Ford to be running, and you can even tell the difference between what WAP Canoe and like this is WAP Canoe. So we have to pay attention to this, and it's like, yeah, we do. It is like we have to like show that we're willing to be flexible. Yeah, willing to be flexible, but he's not saying give them everything, right? Yeah. There's some balance here. Dominic LeBlanc said that he's not worried about Smith or Fury or any other premier freelancing ideas about how to deal with Trump. In fact, their ties to U.S. officials, including Republican governors, could be useful in the future, he said. Quote, the Prime Minister of Canada doesn't control what elected First Ministers say in terms of how they represent the interests of their provinces, but they keep on telling the Prime Minister how he should be doing it for Canada, though. That respect is not a two-way street. The good news is many premiers tell us they want to work in a collaborative, constructive way as the country to send a unified message to the American administration. Shortly before the meeting, Ontario Premier Doug Ford told reporters that he spoke with U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, the Ontario Provincial Police, and the Canada Border Services Agency to understand how Canada can tighten its borders, adding that it can't ignore Trump's tariffs threats. As the province of Ontario, will do whatever it takes to help the CBSA, to help the OPP, but we need to plan across the border, he said. Ford said that Ontario recruits more than 2,000 police officers every year, while the RCMP only have the funding for 1,200. That system is broken, he said. The RCMP are starving, and we need to encourage the federal government to at least hit the quota that we have. A little gratuitous, but if these facts are actually facts, then a strategic opportunity to mention them. Listen, I won't begrudge Doug Ford that one, but maybe he should have had a separate press conference for that to highlight rather than as a throw-aside issue. Oh, and by the way, if this is an issue, then bring attention to it the right way.
Indeed.
Because it looks like it is indeed an issue. All right. Now, what Mr. Grizzly's been talking about, the GST stuff, the $250 checks. Well, there's been a development, kids and cubs. Now, first of all, we had Mr. Jagmeet Singh coming out and stating that he had a problem with the plan, the way that it has been presented, because, as he is framing it, that it does not include seniors, and it does not include the disabled, and does not include students. That's not exactly true. It does include seniors. For example, if you're a senior and you're retired, and let's say, 1 or 2 days a week, you have a shift at Walmart as a greeter, because you've worked. So you will get, you worked and you've had something go to CPP premiums like this. If you contributed to EI premiums or if you've received them, I think those two will count. But you've contributed, so you will get it. If you're a student, and you've had a job like you TA'd, or you've worked at Tim Hortons or someplace, or you had a summer work job experience for the summer, you will get it, right? If you're disabled like this and you are able to work a certain number of hours per week, yes, you will get it, right? it's not whether or not you're a senior, whether or not you're disabled, or whether or not you're a student that determines whether or not you get it. It's whether you recorded some work hours in 2023 that would have led you to contribute to CPP or EI or something like that. Right? That's what it would be. So the framing is not there. Now, the groups most likely to not be getting this, right, are the seniors and the students and the members of the disability community who did not work. And they are probably the group of people that are most likely to have not worked. Either a student because they're really, really, really focused on their studies, a senior because they enjoy being retired. That's the choice that they've made for themselves. They do not want to work anymore. They've given enough. Thank you. And they're enjoying their golden years, as is their right. Some people work because they like to still be engaged. And some people like to fully disconnect. To each their own, different strokes. That's freedom. And there are members of the differently abled community that are not able to work at all. And some who can and do. Right? So, but the groups most likely to be affected by not getting it are these groups as well. But the framing Mr. Singh is putting on it is slightly twisted to make it seem like the big bad liberals who don't care about. It's not really about that. It was targeted to workers. The reason it was targeted to workers, one, was to try to make the scale of it a little smaller, to be a little different than Doug Ford, of course, who gave it to anybody with a pulse. So, and to try to say that, we're being more fiscally responsible about it and all that kind of stuff. But while the move itself seems to be getting praise in terms of giving money overall, and seems to cut through the public attention sphere, the fact that it was designed, had they just given it to everybody but made it income tested, let's say to like 120,000 rather than 150,000, and did not tie it to work, there would be none of these problems. Mm-hmm. And they might have been able to keep it to the same budget envelope just by lowering the threshold so fewer people would get it. Right? But they decided to make it tied to work. But it opened this flank. And this is why I'm saying, like, when you're thinking this is policy that was like pretty hastily designed, somebody would have thought of that at some point. And they would have mentioned in the room, well, okay, so we do this, we release it, this happens, you get this response. What do we do? And as we saw in a couple of clips when we showed you the other day, they seem to be pretty ill prepared for that response. So they didn't think that through. Nobody gamed that out. Because if you design a program this way, when you communicate it, who are the winners, who are the losers that you've picked, and what are the responses? That's a pretty basic exercise in PR, actually, before you go out with something. That's why you always want to have a PR person in the room when you're actually designing the program, rather than having designed the program and then present it to them and say, go out and communicate it, because then they can spot, well, but you left out these, like, how am I supposed to communicate that to these people? There's nothing good in it for them. Right? So Jagmeet Singh has taken a position, and strategically, and a very good one, and in line with NDP philosophy and everything we know to be true about them, that they will not support the checks at all in any way, shape, or form unless the rules on the checks change so that they go to everyone, regardless of whether they've worked. Because there's hard times for everyone. That's a winning position. PR-wise, it plays very, 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 very well. It also lets the Conservatives off the hook for not supporting it. Because if the NDP was supporting it, then the Conservatives would be the cheese who stands alone that does not want to give everybody $250 and a reduction on the GST stuff, and they would be alone explaining why it is that they're being Grinches. But because the Liberals tripped over the flowers and the patterns of the carpet again, because this is a self-inflicted wound, even this flank, you got the Conservatives not supporting it and not taking any flack for it, and the NDP squeezing the Liberals saying, we're not going to support this bill. So what happened is that the Liberals dissociated the GST Christmas rebate, because they got to get that passed now, from the $250 checks that were not supposed to be distributed until April. So instead of one bill, there are going to be two separate bills. And right now the GST bill is going through. Now the GST bill had a little more thought into it than the $250 checks. And the reason you know that is by the things that they took the GST off of. Because while a lot of people are saying it's off essentials, is a Christmas tree really an essential?
I wouldn't think so.
Is alcohol really an essential?
It is for alcoholics.
For alcoholics.
Because they'll die without it.
Right. But is it an essential?
Not
but
really, no.
For a lot of households, Christmas time is the time of year where they buy the most alcohol in one shot anywhere else. Perfect time to save some GST. Right? So you could tell that one there was some thought of, because there's certain things that they determined to be essentials that are not really essentials, but they're more seasonal to take advantage of the 2-month period. So clever design, right? Good politics, maybe not the best policy for the GST, maybe. Okay, a little break at this time where people are spending a lot of money, the $250. Also probably good politics, but in that case, very bad policy, right? Because that's a big amount of money that could have been spent on something specific, right? That's just it's going to fuel the economy. It's going to stimulate the economy, and there will be a benefit there. But, yeah, right? So the measure was not to send the $250 checks is not included in the current bill that's being there. And Jagmeet Singh is saying New Democrats are demanding that the GST holiday get passed immediately, and then we want to reiterate our demand that the Liberals fix the checks. Let's get the GST holiday done. People need relief right now, so it's very clear if the Liberals don't do this, they are the ones jeopardizing this. We are very clear. We have cleared the path. The steps are in place now to pass the GST holiday right away. Do that, and then fix the checks. I can't fault Mr. Singh for this.
No. Nor can I.
We have said very clearly we are not going to vote for checks that exclude the vulnerable. That's a very clear position. So, the tax holiday bill is set to pass on Thursday night with NDP support. Now, the problem that the NDP will have henceforth with this, however, is that the NDP did agree to suspend debate on the Conservatives' motion of privilege about them demanding that the government break the law on unconstitutionally surrendered documents. That the government, not unconstitutionally surrendered documents, but that the government give the Conservative Party documents that they've said they intend to unconstitutionally surrender to the police. So the Liberals don't want to help them do that. Don't want to help them break the law. So they're not doing that. And the Speaker said that should go to committee for discussion, and the Conservatives are not allowing that to happen. But it seems that the New Democrats did vote to suspend that for one day so that they can get this passed, which is fine to get this passed, and the NDP scores a point. But for the future now, that's like, okay, NDP, so you did do it once for a GST tax cut holiday. Why won't you do it for this?
And why not?
Why won't you do it if there's a bill, let's say, in the House right now to add additional protections for women for domestic violence, let's say. Oh, NDP, why aren't you willing to suspend the motion of privilege of the Conservatives to pass this bill to give more protection to women who might be in danger of intimate partner violence? You did it for a GST holiday. Why wouldn't you do it for? So that door is opened up to the NDP to be asked why for one and why not for the other, and being asked to justify it every single time. So this can be a double-edged sword for the party, depending what other bills are being held up at the moment. So I think, those are the biggest thing. The other thing is that there are some provincial premiers that are asking for some compensation because this GST holiday, because we have a harmonized sales tax in provinces, it seems that where there's going to be a harmonized sales tax, it does typically apply to both of them, both taxes. So Doug Ford made an announcement, right, that he's going to match it, but I'm not sure he had the choice, really. So I think he's trying to take something that he had no choice to do and try to spin it as an initiative that he is doing, which is politically clever. But I mean, he's trying to take credit for something that happens anyway. And the reason I'm saying that is because the premier of New Brunswick, and I can't remember another province, had asked to meet the prime minister to discuss whether or not there would be some compensation to compensate the provinces for the hole that would put in their budget. So when we're talking about the Nova Scotia election the other day, the HST cut is, if it goes with the provincial one, is going to blow about $250,000 hole in the Nova Scotia's budget all of a sudden. So, and if they have no choice but to lose that money, if the government's going ahead with its GST cut, then the premiers do have a cause to ask for some type of compensation because they didn't budget that. That just fell on down from on high all of a sudden. So there might be a future opportunity for a little more skirmishes, depending on how willing the government is to be to accommodate those requests. Because the government can still say, it's federal policy. It changes. You guys have to adapt, make it work. Which is also a legitimate position. Happens all the time. Government passes a new thing and it doesn't come with any type of compensation for provinces. You just got to adapt. You got to take that on. And sometimes it does. So, we'll see about that. But yeah, that's interesting that now the government does have the luxury, of course, right? Because the checks are supposed to come in April. So they do have the luxury of having some time to process. So it's not like it's in danger. But the bang for the buck for the announcement to get both of them passed at the same time, they're not going to get it. But they will get two smaller bangs with two separate announcements when they do pass. Because I don't see the government digging its heels in, I guess, to not give it. So if the government's worried about the overall size of the envelope, I would expect that they would probably give it to everyone and then reduce the amount. Of course, that creates another future thing where people, let's say, if they cut it to 120,000, anybody that would have been getting it who's not getting it now would then be going. But I have a feeling that if you have to go into the court of public opinion and judge, me looking like I'm not giving it to seniors and disabled people and students, or me looking like I'm not giving it to people that make between $120,000 and $150,000 a year, I think I'll give it to the seniors and the disabled and the students. Because I look way less Scroogey and Grinchy.
It's a much better public relations move. I mean, to give it to people who need it the most as opposed to those who don't.
I think so. Mr. Grizzly, do you have something?
Or just do what Doug Ford's doing and give it to absolutely every living, breathing soul, period.
Well, that's the other way. That's the only argument you leave yourself open to there is like you're just spending too much. And well, there's not always a consequence for that. So sometimes you can roll that dice.
So I got a cute one here. I just came across the feed. It's a quick hit. I think you'll get a kick out of this. This is a tariff lesson for Trump supporters. To buy coffee without tariffs, only buy coffees made in America. No coffee is grown in America. All of the beans are imported. 100% of the coffee you drink is imported. There will be 25% tariffs on them? I don't know.
If it comes from Mexico.
Well, there's, of course, and of course there's this little cartoon. I don't know who drew it, but 21% of Canadians support Trump. McKay, I don't know who that is. From the Hamilton Spectator. Sure, he'll wreck our economy, but at least he's not Trudeau.
Right. Oh my God. Theo Moudakis had a great one the other day that made me pee myself. If you can find it. It has the Trump, the shadow of Trump. It goes with Poilievre and Theo's recurring Beaver character, which I could say I posed for, but I think Theo's Beaver existed before I existed as the Beaver. I wish I could say it was his muse.
Here it is. You got it right here.
You got it right there?
Yeah, there you go. There it is. I'll save you, Canada. Oh God, we're doomed.
So yeah, it's the big specter of Trump, like this as a shadow with tiny, tiny, tiny little hands like this. And Pierre Poilievre is like looking at him. It's like, I'll save you, Canada. And he's holding the hand of that little beaver. And the beaver's like, oh God, we're doomed.
And
And
here's
it's like
today's
that one.
cartoon for the Toronto Star. Emergency meeting of the premiers. We're not disturbing you, are we, Premier Ford? As Premier Ford,
Yeah, really.
Ford holds up a newspaper that says Conservatives win snap election in Nova Scotia.
I like how they put Susan Holt in the bottom corner, though. Isn't that where Cindy was in the video? I'm trying to remember now. I'd have to look at the video but thing and see if that's where Cindy was. So yeah, that one from Theo that I showed you, to me, right there encompasses the genius of Theo Moudakis, because that cartoon simultaneously had me pissing myself laughing and running for the closest corner so that I could sit it and rock in it and soothe myself, because oh my God, we're so screwed.
Yeah,
We're so screwed.
it's a double entendre.
It's funny, but we are so screwed. Oh my God, make it stop, somebody. Right? So it's like it takes a genius to be able to hit you on two levels like that at the same time.
I agree.
Good job, Theo.
Well, it's coming across another one on the feed. Apparently, MAGA trolls, I don't know, are telling people on Twitter that they're not allowed to criticize the impending Trump administration. They're saying that it's illegal. I thought you're the bastion of free speech. If that's the case, you should be able to say whatever you want. The consequences for what you say, you'll have to pay for, but you're allowed to say it.
Right. So about that meeting with the premiers, to close it off there, Chrystia Freeland stated, everyone was agreed this is a time when we need to play for Team Canada. We agreed that we need to be smart, strong, and united in meeting this challenge. And Minister Dominique Leblanc, who is the Minister of Public Safety, but also responsible for border security, said, we spoke of additional measures, additional investments supporting the work of the RCMP, Canada Border Services Agency. Premiers spoke of their desire to collaborate with us on issues around border security. So pretty generic, but indicating openness and willingness to start working on that. So, like I said, we'll see what that goes. But like I said, the reality here is that we are in reactive position. We try to, prepare for contingencies, and we wait for what it is he's going to do on any given day that brings the issue back to the fore, and then we try to react to that in the meantime. So, hopefully we will have a group of premiers that are more that are less willing to try and put holes in the boat before we take to the water as this goes, because he's going to be president unless somebody invokes the 25th or something like that, because you have to work with the assumption that he is going to be president for at least 4 years if he decides to go after 4. So you can't start, you can't be starting before he's even taken the job panicking with volume at 15 like this. You've got nowhere to go when he really does do something. It's like, if everything he says means that the sky is falling, at some point people are going to tune you out. You got to be judicious when you say now is the time to panic. It can't be on everything he does, because no human likes to live in a constant state of panic. Eventually what happens is, well, you said it now, it's time to panic last time, and I'm still here. And then you get tuned out. You got to use that button judiciously. All right. One last little thing that I have before we go. The federal, unless you have something later, Mr. Grizzly, the federal mediator that has been put into the room to help the Canada Union of Postal Workers and Canada Post negotiate has themselves walked away from the table, saying that both sides are just too far apart to make any progress. You know things are bad when the media says, screw you guys, I'm going home. The federal labor minister still says he's not prepared to legislate and the dispute. Stephen McKinnon says both sides need to step away from the bargaining table, review their positions, and come back with a new plan. Quote, currently parties camped in different quarters, not willing to be flexible, not willing to compromise when compromise is so evidently required, said the minister. This is the first time negotiations have stopped since employees walked off the job on November 15th. Canada Post accuses the union of bringing talks to a grinding halt, whereas the union responds that the corporation is guilty of half-truths and outright deception. So it's warm and fuzzy feelings in there.
Hmm.
So that's a twist. I mean, I know it happens now and then, but for the mediator to say, y'all are being children. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. You figure it out. Call me when you're ready to be serious.
Pretty much.
So yeah, it looks like this one might last a while. So buckle in. For those who are wondering as well, the ceasefire over there appears to still be holding, which is good. It seems that many mayors of Israel are not all that supportive of the ceasefire as announced, which sounds a little counterintuitive at first. But as we mentioned, the fear is like they always say that they're going to do that and then they regroup and they come back again. So they're demanding a buffer zone free of Lebanese people. There's also a reaction to the ceasefire from Hamas that came in a statement. The group praised Hezbollah, saying Israel forced them to accept a deal before it could achieve its goals, and it shattered Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's illusions of changing the map of the Middle East. And that's some nuclear-grade copium. Also hopes that this will pave the way to end genocide in Gaza, which a lot of people actually have that hope that this can be a template or a test run or beta test for an agreement that could be in place over there. Hamas says that it's open to efforts to secure the ceasefire to lead to the withdrawal of Israeli forces, to return the return of displaced Palestinians, and a prisoner swap deal. Both the leaders of Qatar and Egypt have expressed public wishes that the ceasefire will be successful, so that's kind of good. And in a sort of related news, in the United States, it seems that there's some people in the Republican Party that are not very happy with the ICC, the International Criminal Court's warrants against Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. They seem to have no problem with the arrest warrant against Mohammed Daif from Hamas, however. But they have a problem with those two. Israel and the United States are two of the few nations that have not signed on to the ICC, by the way. But the ICC says that even though Israel is not a signatory, they do have jurisdiction over Palestine, and therefore the order is valid and the warrants are valid. But you have Lindsey Graham, guy that likes to cosplay Hawk all the time, coming up doing what he does best. It's quote, Prime Minister Netanyahu's office announced today that Israel will appeal arrest warrant. Well, basically, Graham is saying, there's trouble for anybody that would execute the warrant. So Prime Minister Netanyahu's office announced that Israel are going to appeal the arrest warrants from the ICC. And Lindsey Graham says that he's going to promote measures against the International Criminal Court for having issued the warrants and any countries that work with it.
Well, have a look at this. Just before I share this, I just want to change something up here so we can cover up some crap from the source material, because it's not actually their source.
Okay.
I'm just covering it up because this is from CP 24. But you can see there's another. We've covered the label of somebody else who decided to steal their content. And anyway.
As you know, the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his former defense minister, Hamas officials. The prime minister was asked about this yesterday. He said he would abide by international law. What is your response, Mr. Poilievre?
I think it's just another example about how radical and wildly woke our prime minister has become, that he's now disagreed with President Biden on this and said that he would arrest the democratically elected leader of a liberal democracy. He hasn't ever said he would arrest the Ayatollah of Iran, whose government wants to fire nuclear missiles at both Israel and the United States, that has carried out genocide against people in Syria. He seems to have no problem with any of that. He cozies up with dictators and terrorists around the world, but yet he wants to lock up the leaders of democratically elected countries. It's no wonder that Justin Trudeau is seen as a joke on the world stage. We need a leader who stands by our liberal democratic friends around the world against terrorists and tyrants, and that's the kind of leader I will be.
Okay.
Is this guy for real?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
did he just call Volodymyr Zelensky a terrorist and a tyrant? Because that's the only international leader I've been seeing the Prime Minister cozy up to in any way, shape, or form.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he's stood up to Z, and remember how Polyev lost his shit over that.
Yeah.
And he's saying he will not abide by an international criminal court arrest warrant, that we are a signatory to the International Criminal Court. We are bound by law to arrest Netanyahu if he sets foot in Canada.
That we helped establish. And the reason we're not doing it is because the United States, which did not sign on to the court, we do not respect our treaties because the nation south of us didn't sign on to it? Since when is that Canadian?
This guy is such a vile piece of shit of a human being. He's the law and order, jail not bail. Except
he also demanded that we not respect our extradition treaty with the United States when we had Meng Wanzhou.
Exactly.
China's gonna crush us.
He makes it up as he goes along. He doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself, and he'll take whatever payday he can get. He is a vile, disgusting human being who just sat there and accused the prime minister of cozying up to dictators when we know that is a bald-faced bullshit lie.
We have it on video.
Coming out of that guy's mouth on a daily basis is enough to make a person vomit.
I cannot
believe this fucking piece of shit gets away with this every day.
I know. It's like we have it on video, him standing up to Xi. Chrystia Freeland is not even allowed in Russia because she stands up so hard. It's like we got Trump saying how much he doesn't like Chrystia Freeland because we were tough negotiators. Because we did list the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. Aaron Quatler just recently reminded us on TV, by the way, that he had asked the conservatives to do that all those years ago, and the conservatives didn't get every single person that this guy Modi, we accused him in Parliament of somehow being involved, and Peterson was like every single dictator right now that's really doing stuff. There's literally video of the prime minister embarrassing them or standing up to them, or statements out of the mouths themselves of the dictators saying they don't like us because we say no. And this guy's like literally sitting there going, he cozies up to dictators.
It's a joke.
At the same time as we have a narrative running and a whole inquiry about like his party's leadership race, the one that he benefited from perhaps being infiltrated. And again, this out of the mouth of a guy that has a lifetime deferred prosecution agreement with Elections Canada because he's a cheater.
This is the guy who brought donuts and coffee to the people who occupied my neighborhood for 3 weeks. And when there was a peaceful protest in front of a house that he lives in for free, he had them arrested within 2 hours.
I don't know if he had them arrested, but
correct. You're correct. You are correct about that. Yes. Yeah. You are correct about that. Thank you for straightening that out. That's
But either way, whether it's him or not, it doesn't look good on him. So,
And his only answer to the tariffs is to cancel the carbon tax, which
I know. We're good. Kakistocracy, kids. Get used to the word. Kakistocracy. You're going to be hearing it a lot. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir. I just want to share two things for our American friends about Thanksgiving.
Yes.
I've got two quick hits. I've got one here that shows a family sitting around a meal saying, "Thank you, Jesus, for this meal." And then a dude in a field picking vegetables, whose name is Jesus, says "de nada," for those of you listening in. And then, of course, we have this handy-dandy chart, Americanadians' Guide to Canadian Thanksgiving versus American Thanksgiving. When is it held? Canada, second Monday in October. The United States of America, fourth Thursday in November. When did it start? First recorded in 1578, started celebrating annually in 1879 in Canada. First recorded in 1621, started celebrating annually in 1863 in the United States of America. Why? A celebration of being thankful for what one has and the bounty of the previous year. In the United States, it is thought the first Thanksgiving was celebrated to give thanks to God for helping the Pilgrims of Plymouth Colony survive their first brutal winter in New England. Celebrate how? In Canada, spending time with family, feasting, religious practice. In the United States, giving thanks to God, spending time with family, feasting, football games, and parades. What do you eat? In Canada, turkey or ham, mashed potatoes, stuffing, pumpkin pie, etc. In the United States, turkey or turkey stuffed with a duck, stuffed with a chicken, stuffed with bacon, mashed potatoes, stuffing, pumpkin pie, etc. What do you drink? Canada. Americans under the table. America. Half of what Canadians drink. Do you watch football? In Canada, the CFL holds a doubleheader known as the Thanksgiving Day Classic. In the United States of America, the NFL holds a series of games known as Thanksgiving Classic. Canada. Do your families have debilitating fights that result in a 2 to 3 week lack of communication? Both countries, yes. So happy Thanksgiving to our American friends. I will watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade later, and probably some football if I have time, but it's literally both of them will just be on a separate monitor as I'm working away here today.
Yeah. So, it might be a rather rainy parade. Apparently,
I understand,
Minnie Mouse is making a debut. There will be a Minnie Mouse float for the first ever time at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade this year. Took long enough. How long has Minnie been around? Oh, man. Kits and Cubs, that is the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Now, if you do not want to miss an episode, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl, who sponsors our pod page, podpage.com/TheTrueNorthEagerBeaver. Lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. And I'm sure Mr. Grizzly will put up the QR code very soon so that those who are watching can scan it and go and subscribe to our pod page. Now, if you'd like to help us in other ways, you need to surf yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where Kit Elaine will be waiting there to direct you to smash the buttons. And if you are watching live, remember, if you smash now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave. So get your smash on, like, share, and subscribe. Click our buttons. It makes us happy when you do. And we thank you very much. Now, if you'd like to support us in other ways, because it does require a little bit of money to bring this show to you, internet subscription fees and all that kind of stuff. So if you would like to help us offset the costs for that, we would be very grateful. And you could do that by scanning the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's coffee page, which, if you are listening, is at ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And if you go there, there's a little tip jar that is waiting for you. And if you would like to say, add a beaver, and let's say you deserve a hot chocolate today, or add a Grizzly, you deserve a cup of coffee today. Well, you know what? That would make us very happy. And since it's a little cold and rainy here, a hot chocolate would certainly make my tummy feel nice and warm inside. My tummy is lonely and does need some friends. So if you would like my tummy to have some friends and buy me a hot chocolate, well, then you just scan that little QR code and you drop a little bit of coinage in our tip jar. And we thank you very much for your generosity. Everything you do actually does go back into the show, but we thank you so much. It means a lot to us. But if you're not able to contribute financially, do not worry, because the gift of your attention and participation are the gifts that matter most to us. And we love to hear from you. So truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Write to us. Let us know what you think, good, bad, or ugly. You can also reach us at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge on Blue Sky at True Eager. And if you go to our original site, the True North Eager Beaver Facebook page, you might find more stuff. Hello, Mademoiselle Fox. And Lola put her paw in the strategic spot again. I can tell by Mr. Grizzly's face. Oh, boy. So, yes, sorry. True Eager, yes, Facebook page, and of course our YouTube page. If you're listening, right down below the comment section, leave us a few words over there. Thank you so much for all of your input. Also, forgot to mention on the show, I saw it in the chat and I keep on making a note of it and forgetting it, but our good friend Mateo happened to win the Honesty Award at school the other day.
Oh, cool.
Go, my man. Good for you.
Well
We're
done,
very
sir.
proud of you.
Well done.
Big hugs, Mateo. It's a good thing to be honest. Very, very good thing. He's a good lad. We love Mateo.
He's a good lad.
He's a good lad. All right, kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Cloverdale, Langley City, by-election coming up December 16th. If you are in Alberta, Lethbridge West, also a by-election coming up, this one provincial, also in December. I should probably note the date of that one down so I can tell it to you rather than just referring to it without talking about the date. So I will get that for the next show. Please do the things that you need to do. Research your candidates, volunteer if you can, either at a polling station or to help a candidate if there's someone that you're passionate about. Because democracy, so that's because democracy is something that you do. Now, kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, some words of wisdom, please, sir.
Well, I was going to refer to a headline here that I'm reading in the Toronto Star, but you know what? It's going to be too triggering for too many people. But let's just say there's a lawyer is temporarily blocked from becoming a lawyer because of things he did while living in another country in 2009. And they said he's a man of good character. But when you read about this story, which I'll put in the chat for anybody who wants to read, if you can get access to it, I don't know. It might be paywalled, but I have a Star account, so it's a disturbing story. I'm not gonna talk about it because it would trigger a lot of people. But it's there if you want to read it. I think they're doing the right call by keeping him from being called to the bar, and they should keep it that way permanently. When you read that story, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. The Ontario Law Society is doing the right thing. This man should not be a lawyer because of past sins, but past sins that are completely unforgivable.
Oh my.
There is no redemption from what he did.
Okay.
None.
Good to know. Good to know. Just did a check, by the way, for those who are interested in the trivia. Minnie Mouse made her debut on November 18th, 1928. So it only took nearly 100 years for her to get a Macy's float. That's
all. Just 100, no big deal.
Mr. Grizzly,
we didn't even have a chance to get into Article 5 today, but we can discuss
that's true, yeah. Yeah. Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock. I've got a little Easter egg. Make a note of it. We'll do it on when you're back.
Okay.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Okay, Mr. Grizzly, we have a couple of programming notes to announce because you're going to be going away for a few days.
Yes.
Okay. Till I believe Tuesday, Tuesday inclusively, right? You're back with us officially on Wednesday?
Correct. Tuesday, I'm on a train to Montreal at 6 a.m., so I won't be able to do a show. Monday, I am flying back from Calgary. My flight's at 7 a.m. Calgary time, which is 9 a.m. Ottawa time, which means I'm at the airport at 5 a.m. Calgary time, 7 a.m. Ottawa time, so I won't be able to do a show on Monday. And tomorrow being Friday, quite frankly, I don't feel like getting up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yep. So that's all good. So we will be doing a couple of pre-records. I have 2 interviews lined up for us.
Okay.
And so 2 of them will be pre-records and 1 of them will be me solo. Not sure if it will be the Monday or Tuesday. Maybe the Monday if there's a lot of news on the weekend and then showing the second one on the Tuesday. I'm doing, unless I have a 9:30 a.m. Curling on Monday, then I'll show it on the Monday and do the recap on the Tuesday. Give us more time,
Okay.
some less rush. So just so you know that. One bit of good news that's going up that I wanted to bring to your attention. I heard about it on the news today. But there's a project happening on in the north, and I want to read it to you a little bit about it because I found it really interesting. And then there's been a development. Several years ago, a vision took root within the Inuit communities, the establishment of an Inuit Nunangut University, or Nunangat University, a core investment of the national strategy on Inuit education of 2011. And the reason this resonates with me is as a Franco-Ontarian, a dedicated French language university in Ontario for Francophones has always been something that's been really important for me, and we never had it. So I'm like, I understand how this can be important to a people. This vision, grounded in promoting Inuktitut and Inuit ways of knowing, aimed to provide educational and research opportunities for Inuit youth and the wider world. Fast forward to 2017, a pivotal moment arrived when the ITK, that's Inuit Tapidit Kanatami Board of Directors, passed a resolution to develop the university, marking a significant step towards self-determination in higher education. Now, there's a group that's called the MasterCard Foundation. So this is supported by the MasterCard Foundation. Inuit Tapiret Kanatami built capacity and formed the Inuit Nunangut. I think that's Nunangat. I'm not sure if it's Nunangut or Nunangat, but I'm going to say Nunangat. And I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing it right. University Task Force. Their mission was clear: to engage Inuit communities in designing a university model aligned with their needs, guided by their, oh boy, I do not know how to pronounce this word, Sivumut strategic plan. The INUTF worked to ensure the model's viability and sustainability, considering aspects like governance, programming, infrastructure, legal requirements, and finances. The Inuit Nunangat University Charter underscores the university's foundation in Inuit self-governance, resilience, and connection to ancestral lands. Inuit Nunangat University is dedicated to reclaiming, revitalizing, and promoting Inuit education, language, and culture, countering the impacts of colonialism and assimilation. Rooted in Inuit, oh boy, Kaljimajatukanjit. I am so sorry. And guided by Inuit Malagate, this institution strives to foster decolonization, reconciliation, and respect for Inuit knowledge systems. As the first Arctic-based university spanning multiple Canadian jurisdictions, Inuit Nunangat University aims to empower students through culturally grounded education, promote regional and global collaboration, and uphold intellectual freedom. It is committed to nurturing future Inuit leaders and scholars who embody and advance Inuit values and traditions. And oh, there we go. Sivumut basically means, I think it means a way forward.
Okay.
From what I can tell, if I'm looking on the site and looking elsewhere, hopefully I've got that right. Now, the big development in this project, because it sounds like a really great project, right? And again, particularly sovereignty, having a post-secondary institution overall from that region, don't need to travel all the way down south. They can still, have an educational experience up there. And when we're talking about national security and all that kind of stuff, right? The more of that type of stuff that you have up there, the more it makes it look like you actually are a real country, right?
Okay.
So when you're making these claims, according to the APTN, this was announced yesterday. The dream to open an Inuit-led university is one step closer to realization, the president of Inuit Tapirit Kanatami said after a $50 million investment from the MasterCard Foundation.
Wow.
Inuit Tapirut Kanatami, or ITK, serves as the national representative organization for Inuit in Canada. In a statement, the organization said the funding will allow it to build key capacities and advance academic plans and course development for the university. It would be the first of its kind and would be embedded in Inuit cultures with an aim of promoting language retention and revitalization and supporting economic and cultural opportunities. ITK says it needs $160 million from the public and private sectors to open a main campus and develop initial degree programs. It aims to open the doors to students in 2030. $50 million is going to go a long way to that 160.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yes, this is a meaningful contribution here.
It
ITK
is.
President Naan Obed said the organization will be asking the federal government to commit $50 million in its next budget to help achieve that goal. He said Inuit Nunangat University will remove barriers that prevent many Inuit from accessing post-secondary education and equip them with degrees to support the needs of their communities. Quote, "We're the only developed country that has not had a university in the Arctic for some time, and that's of huge significance to us from a sovereignty perspective, but also from an equity perspective," he said in an interview. "This is going to be a university where people who want to go to university in Inuit Nunangat will be grounded in Inuit society and also have a full spectrum of educational opportunities that include learning more about our society and our practices." The organization envisions building a main campus that will serve as the central education hub for students across Inuit Nunangat, along with knowledge centers placed throughout its 4 regions that will offer courses that respect each community's cultural context. 6 faculties are imagined that represent Inuit values and cultures. The Faculty of Resourcefulness and Sustainability includes major and minor degree programs in economics, hunting, and engineering, and the Faculty of Sovereignty includes major and minor programs in governance, leadership, land claims, and Inuit self-determination. This sounds like it's really going to be good. Quote, "We've tried to give faculty names of the outcomes that we want to see in our society," Obed said. "It's a very different conceptualization on what is important." The organization previously wanted the university to open in 2023, but challenges along the way prevented that ambitious start date from being realized. Obed said he called the process, quote, "incredibly complex." Obed cited challenges in securing funding, ongoing consultations around course offerings and locations, and the requests to the federal government to develop legislation that allows the university to operate across provincial and territorial jurisdictions. Quote, "That's still to come," he said. "The first step we need is the federal government announcing in its next budget a significant contribution to the creation of this university." Jennifer Brennan, the Senior Director of Canada Programs at the MasterCard Foundation, said in a statement, the university, quote, "holds the promise to fundamentally transform the education system guided by the vision and values of Inuit. Inuit Nunangat University will deliver exceptional learning in the Inuit homeland, creating new pathways to meaningful livelihoods for Inuit youth in support of healthy and vibrant Inuit communities," she said. Part of the reason Obed finds the creation of Inuit Nunangat University is important is so Inuit don't need to travel to the south for post-secondary education. Noting there are vast cultural differences, a lack of support systems, and sometimes violent encounters with non-Inuit. In 2022, for example, Savannah Pikuyak moved to Ottawa from Nunavut to attend Algonquin College, but after a week of being in the city, she was found dead, with a man charged with second-degree murder for her death. Quote, "We know that there are challenges that Inuit students face that are particular to our society, but it shouldn't be that we have to create an institution because our Inuit students, when they pursue post-secondary success, are at greater risk of physical harm when they go to the south," he said. But that really is the case, and the numbers bear it out.
Sadly, it is the case.
Sadly, it is the case. But this is such a good initiative. So, this was thanks to files by the Canadian Press and a story by Alicia Pasiafium at APTN and Juanita Taylor from the CBC Yellowknife. Just want to give credit to these good reporters. All right, that's the show. Have a beaverific day, everyone.
See you soon.